The melody lingers. First tune, beaming smile. Feel the style. Calloused hands, stiff wrist, getting the gist. First riff, eyes wide, glowing pride. Long hours, no money, like running through honey. First gig, showtime, sunshine.
One, two, three. I never want my children to live a life like mine, so I faced my inner demons, one small step at a time, one small step at a time. I was a boy without belonging, a jigsaw piece that didn't fit. If someone shouted out the answer, then you know I didn't hear it. You know I didn't hear it. I'm not the man I used to be. Gone are the days when all I could see was myself in the mirror, trying to break free, trying to break free. It's taken many years of feeling all alone, so many years of emptiness with no place to call a home, no place to call a home. Now I'm feeling so much stronger as my demons walked away. I think they finally realized they had nothing more to say, nothing more to say. I'm not the man I used to be. Gone are the days when all I could see was myself in the mirror, trying to break free, trying to break free. So many days have passed now, and my life is still on track. And if them demons try returning, I'll have the strength to send them back. I'll have the strength to send them back. They'll never pull me down again or ever cause me pain. I can see a brighter future and it's heading in my way. It's growing brighter every day. I'm not the man I used to be. I'm not the man I used to be. Oh, I'm not the man I used to be. Gone are the days when all I could see was myself in the mirror, trying to break free, but now I've broken free.
But I can't eat, not allowed and don't sleep in my own bed anymore. I uniform to show you who I am. Boring but it's so easy, same faces all of the time. And my girl on the brain, I'm in dire need of change, but I'll miss it all the same. Give me the news and an honest page, a seasoned book and a set of wheels, a flash of your eye from across the party, a quiet life, an open door. Strange place, familiar faces, old furniture, brings it all back. The new makes me curious, and I might miss the routine, but I'd replace it with that scene in front of me any day. I'm amazed at the ways it's gonna change.
Hello everybody, welcome to the launch of the Street Cones film Something to Lose. I'm really pleased we seem to have a really good attendance today, and that's really refreshing. I hope you enjoyed the music at the start by our friends and colleagues from Vox Luminis. I suppose this film comes at a time when we've got some challenges in front of us for our justice system. These are entrenched challenges, and they predate the COVID-related difficulties we're all dealing with today. We have a very heavy reliance on custody in Scotland. We have one of the highest incarceration rates in Europe. We have high reconviction rates, particularly for people who have served a short-term prison sentence. And all of this also hits the public purse in a really significant way. In Glasgow, we understand that the direct costs of reoffending in the city cost the public purse around £600 million a year. And a lot of that spend is reacting to crime and not preventing, not really trying to manage in a sensible way sometimes. I suppose all of this can sometimes make us a bit cynical about what our justice system is about and what we can achieve with it. And that's maybe our greatest problem, or at least it's my fear that we are all too cynical sometimes to know what is possible, to know there is something to lose if we're not careful. I worry that victims of crime and communities in general are cynical about what the justice system delivers for them. I worry when I read something in the media or see it on the news and it is cynical about our justice system. I worry about people who are going through the justice system and their families and what their cynicism might be in relation to the justice system and what it delivers and what the outcomes are there for them. And occasionally too, those of us working in the justice system are cynical, and that's worrying. I'm reminded of a very short quote by the poet, the activist, the writer Maya Angelou. A cynical young person is perhaps the saddest thing to see, because it means that he or she has gone from knowing nothing to believing in nothing. I hope our next generation won't be cynical about the potentials of our justice system in Scotland. We need to believe today in the possibilities. We need to understand there is something to lose if we don't act. And I think Street Cones are an exciting charity for that point of view, that they are acting. I've had the pleasure of working with Street Cones since its inception in 2014. And it was started by a gentleman sitting in Barlinnie prison who thought, I can do something when I come out. And he did. He started Street Cones. And I can tell you, Street Cones are not cynics. They are working hard to contribute something into the justice system. Alongside this film and other films that they've worked on, they are translating some of the workshops into online virtual workshops. They have been informing people leaving prison through the prison radio on how to prepare for leaving prison during COVID. And they are working with local authorities right now to help them to deliver some of the backlog of unpaid work hours through community payback orders through a virtual workshop. They're not cynics. I hope as you watch the film, you see what I see, which is a beautifully crafted film. It's creative, it's positive. It is a fictional account, and it is interspersed with interviews from professionals, from those experiencing community payback orders, but it is realistic. I guess as you watch it, I'd ask you to do a few things. One, we want you to ask questions. We're going to have a Q&A at the end, so prepare some questions. Whatever platform you're watching this on, you're able to filter questions in, and they'll come through, and we'd like to be able to address as many of them as we can. Include your name so we know who's asked those questions. But beyond that, after today, this isn't the end. We want you to help raise the debate about what is it we want from our justice system? What are the outcomes we'd like to see? I'd like you to help us to extend the dialogue around community sentences and shifting that balance towards a rational approach towards justice and, shifting away from our dependence on custody as much as we do. And during this, consider if you're going to be an activist, if you're going to challenge cynicism out there, and whether we can help you in that journey. I'm pleased now to turn the screen over to somebody who is no cynic, and particularly no cynic when it comes to justice. He features in the film. He has supported the film, and unfortunately, while he can't be with us here today, he has filmed some introductory words to the film. So without any hesitation, I welcome some words from the Cabinet Secretary for Justice, Mr. Humza Yousaf.
Hi everybody. I'm sorry I can't join you live at the launch of today's film. I was really delighted to take part in the filming of Something to Lose. 2020 is a year that none of us will forget. It's a year that none of us could have predicted what we're going through. But if anything, it's made me even more determined, even more resolute to ensure that as a government, we're putting our energy, our effort, and indeed our resource into alternatives to custody. Time and time again, we've seen this study after study after study but importantly heard the real life stories from those who've taken part in a community payback order, that alternatives to custody are far more effective in terms of rehabilitation than a stint in prison. And that's something that I'm committed to making sure we continue to do, is invest in those alternatives to custody. You know, everybody should be given chances to rehabilitate. Nobody in society is a lost cause. So look, you're going to watch this film shortly. I've got really two requests of you. One is to make sure that you share this video, this film, on your social media platforms. But secondly, that you tell other people and evangelize about the message behind it. Because there are still too many challenging views in our society that think for everybody that's ever committed a crime, the best place for them is to spend as much time in the jail and that'll sort them out. We know that is not the attitude that are going to change our society and ultimately make everybody safer as a result. And look, I think you're really going to enjoy this film. My thanks to everybody involved, Street Cones of course, but all the teams that are involved. I'm delighted that James, the lead actor, is someone who has lived experience of being through the justice system and turned his life around. You're going to, again, hear about that incredible story. So I think he's the perfect candidate to tell you and show you just how effective community payback orders are. So my thanks to everybody involved in this, and I hope we get to meet soon in real life, in person, after we get through what has been a challenging period. Hi everybody.
In Scotland, you know, we have one of the highest prison populations. In fact, we have the highest prison population in Western Europe per head of the population. We've got to work on the preventative, right? We've got to early intervention, look at the adverse childhood experiences. Why is it that people that are from deprived communities are more likely to end up in the criminal justice system than somebody from an affluent area? Why is it if you have four aces versus somebody who has 0 or 1 ace, you're so much more likely to end up in prison? We've got to deal with that. On the reducing reoffending side, community payback orders are absolutely fundamental. We know the data, the evidence, the figures, the numbers tell us that community payback orders are much more effective in reducing reoffending.
I don't know what to say.
What?
My missus. Don't know what to say. I expected a custodial. That's how she didn't come to court.
What I've heard, this is just as bad.
Whatever it is, it's better than the jail, mate. I could have lost everything.
We should go something else.
You've obviously not got liens then. Or you wouldn't think like that.
I got sentenced on the 31st of August, 18. I got 300 hours, reduced to 200 hours, which was a result for me really because I was expecting a sentence. My lawyer told me to maybe expect a 12-month sentence for what I'd done. I got 200 hours and I was relieved. I mean, I went to court with a bag prepared for jail, so I was shocked and relieved. Taught a lesson. Yeah, definitely. 100% I've learnt a lesson, a big lesson.
I'm your allocated social worker, so it's my job to help you get through your order and complete your unpaid work hours. Now this is a court order, so it's important you understand the consequences of not engaging. Now I'll go through things in more detail before you leave, but I've been having a look at your court report.
And?
Well, you've a fair amount of experience in the criminal justice system. And would it also be fair to say you've got some underlying issues? I've identified one of our squad placements for you to start your hours tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
Well, the sooner the better. If you apply yourself and things go well, we can see a bit of personal placement. Now, is there anything you want to ask me? I know you might not believe this, but I'm here to help you.
You're right.
About what?
I don't believe you. Know what I think this is? Slave labour.
Slave labour. Tam, do you want to stay out of jail? Because if you do, I can help you with that. But only if you'll work with me. Look, how about we see about getting you into employment? Start looking at some of these underlying issues that have got you in trouble in the first place.
What's that supposed to mean?
Alcohol and drugs, for example.
In some cases, the unpaid work case manager might also identify another activity for the client to do. So that might be attending at addictions for an addictions assessment. It might be attending for your GP to have your mental health assessed. It might be attending at the local community casework team to make a referral for your own housing. Whatever issues might be identified could be addressed in part through the use of other activity hours.
What's this?
Addiction counselling. I'd like you to give them a call and make an appointment.
I don't need a counsellor.
Just so we're clear, part of my expectation is that you will address your problems with drugs and alcohol. What have you got to lose?
Like, for talking sake, like, family's everything to you, and at the end of the day, you just want to be with your kids, you want to be with your wife and your range and that kind of stuff in the family, but obviously being in the jail, that's you're no use to anybody. Do you get what I mean? You've obviously not got wings then, and you wouldn't think like that.
If you'd put that inside, my son wouldn't be coming to visit you.
Your son?
I'm not bringing him up visiting Jules. I mean it.
Geese, peace, always nagging. You getting in? Right, I'm on my way.
I think for me, the probably stats speak for themselves in terms of a payback order, in terms of a client who's on a payback order, that resulting effect of going through the order as opposed to prison in terms of reoffending rate and where they then go with their lives. And we can evidence in terms of great success of people coming through, going onto our volunteering programme and ultimately stopping reoffending. That's what payback is all about, stopping that recycle of reoffending. You can understand the public perception that, I think, are we ever realistically going to be able to change everyone's mind on that front? Then it's, I think, in terms of whether, while it's always an alternative to custody, it'll always ultimately be seen as a softer option, but from the individual who manages it, who's kind of worked out there and with the squads and the like, and it's certainly not that case. You know, the guys out there, they're putting in a shift, they're putting in hard graft, as they kind of call it wise, and I suppose the proof's in the pudding. We're out in the city, we're cleaning up, so that it's certainly not an easy way out.
A great job there, son. Well done. Proud of you.
I think if a judge and a court has decided that this person's crime merits a community payback order, then that's something that the community should go with. If the judge doesn't see them fit to serve a prison sentence, then that's something that we should embrace, and that they're helping local communities save cash and have a nicer area to live.
You were wrong, by the way.
About what?
About me not having children. What a son.
How old?
6 weeks.
Congratulations. So if that's the case, I think you'll find that I wasn't down. You were.
How come?
You said you had nothing to lose.
The story for us would probably be someone who presents with a whole host of issues in their own life, who's maybe came through a difficult childhood, difficult family background, potentially had the experience of social work in their lives growing up, have potentially had some experience of the criminal justice system, maybe been in and out of custody, serving short-term prison sentences, and you can see that there's a whole range of needs that they have that we could support them with. So it might be that they're in and out of homeless accommodation, they've had long-term addiction issues, potentially physical and mental health issues as well. And that community payback order gives us the opportunity to try and put in some supports to help that person move on with their life. It also gives us an opportunity to build a relationship with them and work with them on a one-to-one basis and try and get them to think about what it is that's got them into trouble in the past, what is it that's got them involved in offending behaviour, and think about ways we can avoid that moving forward so that they can move on, get a job, get secure accommodation and contribute to society and see benefits in living a more pro-social lifestyle as opposed to the kind of revolving door, if you like, of being in and out of custody, serving short-term prison sentences.
Remember I told you about that personal placement? Might be an option. The community centre asked if you'd be up for doing a few days a week in a cafe, helping out. It'd be count towards your total hours, look good in your CV.
That's for me?
Listen, you've got people around you who want you to do well, who believe in you. Question is, can you start believing in yourself?
Maybe you're right.
Does Elizabeth know you're here? That you're going to addiction counselling?
Not yet. I've got to see how it goes first.
Yeah, well, when the time's right to tell her, you'll know.
Thanks for coming, baby.
It's alright. I want to support you. A happy slave's a productive slave.
Get them in and assess where best to place them. So they may be that it is a squad and that's where they've to go, but I would look at a whole background of things. I would look at the court report, I would look at the previous offences, I would look at their health. Had they been in order before, what was the engagement like? And I would then be looking to see, can we get another placement for them?
How many hours have you got left?
Almost done.
How's the counselling going?
Focus one day at a time. Today's a good day.
Good for you.
Tomorrow might be even better.
How come?
The boss in here's lining me up with a job interview. Concierge.
Yes, well done, mate.
I'll no crack the tea cakes open just yet. I might not get it.
Doesn't matter. For them to offer you a job interview, you must have made a good impression. regardless of what happens with the interview, you just keep doing what you're doing, you'll be fine. Good luck.
Right, brother, any chance of a cup of tea? Community payback orders are so fundamental to a better justice policy because what they do is they ultimately reduce reoffending. I can't hammer that home enough, that they're more effective than a short prison sentence. A short prison sentence will disrupt somebody's tenancy, will take them away from their family, will not give them access to rehabilitation programs. And then if they come out of that 6-month sentence or 9-month sentence or whatever it is, they then might not have a house to go back to, the family dysfunctionality, the stigmatisation. It's no surprise that so many of them end up back in the prison system.
Better not tell them you to look up concierge in the dictionary. Just try and stay relaxed and you'll be fine. I'm proud of you.
Now, most sheriffs, will of course, all of them will act independently. But it's so important that everybody understands the shared vision that we're trying to get to here in Scotland of a progressive society that deals with the underlying causes of why people offend. If we can all believe in that, if we can all get behind that vision, then we all have to work together, from sheriffs to government to CPO practitioners and everybody in between.
No, it felt like a punishment. The CPO did definitely feel like a punishment. It's not something that anybody wants to go through. I wouldn't expect anybody to like to go through a CPO, you know what I mean? But you need to accept responsibility in your actions. It was maintenance, mainly landscaping. We would work in the yard, we would work on benches. It was to go to council parks all about Glasgow. And we would do them up and renew them and put like a name, a connection with somebody. The way I treat life is, you need to look for a positive out of everything. And that's one beneficial factor what I got for it, was I was doing landscaping, I was working with boys, I was communicating with boys, I was getting up early, I was getting into a routine in a sense. So there's definitely beneficials for it.
Welcome back, everybody. We're going to have time for some questions and answers. If you've not put your questions in yet, please use the platform. We'd be delighted to get through as many as we can. We're going to bring on a couple of people to help us out with the questions. While we're doing that, some questions already in. I'm going to take all the easy ones now before we're joined by the others. The first question is the film available afterwards? Yes, absolutely. From tomorrow, you'll be able to go onto streetcones.org. If you go to the Roadworks page, you'll be able to access the film. got a question here. I'm just trying to find it. Is from John Hamilton. And what is the difference in cost to the taxpayer of a community payback order versus a prison sentence? I mean, that's in a way a hard one to answer. There were some stats up on the film, as you saw, and it depends how you want to look at that. But I think the other way to look at that question is, what's the benefit? What we know is that we're overly reliant on custody, and that if we use prison in the wrong way, if we use the wrong justice tool, we get the wrong outcomes. The cabinet secretary said himself that actually a short-term prison sentence is more likely to lead to people staying in a pattern of offending, leading to reconvictions. And we know that community sentences have the benefit, the opportunity for the right candidates to help them to step away. So actually the cost is much bigger than the numbers that were shown up on screen there. Okay. Sorry, just getting through. There's a question here from Elizabeth. And is this story fictional, or is it based on James's own experiences? The story is fictional. Mark McNichol from Street Cones wrote the story. I'd like to say it's realistic. We had a great opportunity for social work within Glasgow to help us go through that. And John O'Neill and his team, who are active in delivering CPOs at Bowden Street, were also helpful in reviewing the script. So we'd like to think it's realistic. We'll hear from others if they think it is. We should be joined shortly by Adam, who is the director and acted as the social worker in the film. John O'Neill, who you saw from Bowden Street, who helps to deliver CPOs. And from James to help us to go through some questions. Hello, guys.
Hello. Hello.
Okay.
Tom.
The questions are coming in fast and furious. I've taken all the easy ones, and now it's over to yourselves to pick up the harder ones. James, a lot of people really want to know what it was like for you acting and how you're getting on in that role.
Well, first of all, it was an honour, and hello everybody who's watching the launch just at the moment. What it was really an honour, and it's probably one of the proudest things I've achieved up to now. My journey with acting and to where I've got to now has been quite remarkable, and I've kind of opened my eyes in a big way and seen what the positivity and determination to get away from negativity, it all works out. And with my acting now, I'm doing quite a lot. I'm on a journey just now, and I've just been offered to work in some of the workshops after this, and it's regarding with Mark Nichol. Mark Nichol's trying to set this up, and he's helping to give back to the boys that are working on the CPO to bring their hours down. So I just give Mark a big ups for that. It's a great thing he's doing. But yeah, my acting journey is amazing, and the journey of Something to Lose is really special to me because, as one of the questions before, it states, was it so much like my life? It was fictional, but yeah, it was. There was so much a connection. It's actually unreal. So it's really good that I got this opportunity, and I feel very privileged.
Thank you, James. Really good to hear that. And I got a question, John, for yourself. People will have seen John in the film as well. I don't think he's going to turn to professional acting, though he did a fair job, I'd say, in the film. But John, there's a question here. Oh, sorry, I just lost it there. It's a question from Irene Duncan for you, John. Is there scope for those on a CPO to say what would help them to stop offending? And how can they get this help while they're on a CPO?
Yeah, well, thanks for ending my potential film career, Tom, before it even started there. But no, definitely. I mean, I think the whole kind of purpose now of a community payback order is moving it away from the completely reparative approach where you're out with guys cleaning up areas within the city. That's always going to be the kind of bulk of it. But we're instilling a kind of wraparound service to that as well. but it gives individuals the opportunity to sit and ultimately question their own kind of decision making and choices that they've made. And then we're bringing in third sector partners to assist us with helping individuals. How do they then address and channel that kind of decision making in better ways to ultimately lead to better decision making? So it's something we're definitely building on, including health and the like as well. But that opportunity is definitely there, because it's only going to work for us if the person does have a say. There's obviously an element whereby an individual's ended up in a CP order because they've maybe not had opportunities to have their self heard, and they're always told what to do and not had the opportunity to shape things themselves. So it's very much about putting the person in control to say, you're here, so let's now make the best opportunity and shape things to you to make sure it works for you.
Thanks, John. I'm going to stick with you, John, just for one more question. This is from Robert Vance. And can you do more than one CPO, or would someone automatically go to prison if they reoffended after their first CPO?
No, you can do more than one. Ultimately, the sheriff and the centres will determine whether someone has more than one. But there's different levels. You have a level 1 and a level 2 order. Both carry different penalties in terms of the amount of unpaid work hours you can actually carry out. But for example, you could have someone who's on a 200-hour community payback order that maybe had something going on in the background that's still to be heard at court. That's then heard, and there could be an additional 100 kind of hour order or 150 hour order that would run concurrent when one's finished, to then move on to the other.
Thank you, John. Adam, a question for yourself. Actually, I've had 2 or 3 people asking a similar vein question, which is, what is Street Cones involved in at the moment, and have you been affected by COVID-19 restrictions on the work you're doing?
Thanks, Tom. So for those that you don't know, my name's Adam. I'm one of the Street Cones practitioners, have been for the last nearly 4 years now. COVID affected us like everyone. Much of our work, or the real value in our work, is making connections with people, and they're usually often people who don't have access to screens or are somewhat digitally impoverished. So that has been a challenge for us. But how we've met that challenge, like for many people in the same boat, we have been engaged just now in transferring as much as of our work online. So we had a program that we used to run in kind of 12-week blocks with young people and also in prisons called Road to Change. And so we've now are in the process of transferring that online so that we can run it digitally. And the benefits of that is it might give us scope to do work that we weren't able to do before, and it's given us scope to reach people that we weren't able to reach before, from communities all over Scotland as opposed to Central Belt, which is where much of our work's been focused. So we're engaged in that Road to Change programme at the moment, and we are delighted really to be able to announce that, or I think it was announced this week online, that we are about to start work with Glasgow Authority, delivering our Road to Change programme for community payback order clients, because there is a huge backlog in unpaid work hours because of COVID. And so we've been able to work with Stephen McVeigh at the social work team and with John O'Neill and look at ways that we can take a portion of that and work with some of the CPO clients on a CPO-themed Road to Change programme, which will be a rolling programme that will allow CPO clients to engage in a creative workshop, essentially, online, either working towards delivering a piece of writing or a piece of drama or a piece of filmed storytelling or a piece of spoken word. So that's what we're engaged in at the moment, and we should be starting that in the next kind of 5 to 6 weeks. And that's just Glasgow, but we are in talks with other local authorities around Scotland as well. So hopefully we'll be doing our Road to Change workshops, further afield in Glasgow.
Thanks, Adam. I'm going to stick with you. I've got a question from Nicola, and it's on the line of those pieces of work you're developing, the workshops. Do you have any plans for introducing workshops related to ACEs or trauma-informed practice?
Well, We have done that before. We used to, in many of our other programs, and we've got another film that we hope to be able to release at some stage called Bard and Barrhead, where we work with young people down in Barrhead. And that was basically what we were working with them. It was a kind of trauma-based approach. And we want to be able to do more of that. So, yes, is the answer. Yeah.
Okay, thanks very much.
I had a delay on my sound there,
James,
so I might have
back
missed
to
some of that
yourself.
question.
A couple of questions coming in, basically about who you'd like to see this film. How do you want people to share this film?
The view that I'm trying to portray in this film is the best view possible. Is positivity, what negativity in your life has a major impact, and if you are willing to change, you need to be willing to change yourself, then you can have a productive and positive future. And that's what this film shows more than anything with Tam, because there's so much connections, as I says, with me and the character Tam, and it's amazing. It's just amazing in every way, and I love it. So
That's great, James. Thank you very much. John, question coming in, and it's a couple of people asking, but Shirlene Taylor is asking, are people financially supported while they're on CPOs? I guess the obvious issue is if you're struggling financially, it's hard then to keep other things going, and that might interrupt people completing their CPO.
Yeah. In terms of travel, so there's obviously a potential barrier there because we operate CPOs in terms of the squad work placements from identified muster points in each of the 3 localities in Glasgow. So we have come across issues where criminal justice social work colleagues, whereby individuals maybe don't present the placement the first couple of shifts that they're due on, and then when they dig a wee bit deeper into that, it's because they don't have the bus fare to travel to the site, etc. So there's reimbursement there in terms of travel tokens and the like, and I know that individuals can then obviously link in with their allocated criminal justice unpaid worker who look at other avenues to see how they can support finances, whether that be providing something towards a kind of lunch where they're out on a shift with us and the like.
Thanks very much, John. James, Eileen Smith, and actually a number of people are congratulating you on the work and all the effort you put in to do that. But Eileen's asking, in terms of your experience when you were on a CPO, is there anything more that could have been done? Do you think there are things that weren't done during your period of being on a CPO that should have been done?
Really, realistically, in my eyes, no. I think the whole thing with the CPO and the way they've got things run is very military, and it gives boys and girls, if they've been offended, if they've offended in the past, that opportunity to show a more productive future. And there's every angles that you can go to get help if you ask. There's many angles you can go to get help. So all you need to do is, if you're really struggling and you're in that kind of scenario, then all you need to do is ask. And when you ask, the CPO system in every way is amazing. And I'm the proof. It shows what, if you're determined that you want to change your life, then this can happen for you in every way, whether it's productivity and other ways of education or training in any way. So I think what the CPO is doing just now in every way is perfect, 100%. Amazing.
Okay. Thanks very much. Just first of all, an apology. James J. Gallagher has highlighted what are ACEs, and here we are. We're using acronyms, and maybe that's unfair. ACEs stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences, trauma that people experience in their childhood that may have an impact on their lives later. So apologies for that to anybody if we skip that. Here's a question from Donna Beatty, and I think any one of us could have a go at it, and I'll start, which is Donna's a social work student, and she's interested in criminal justice, and she's been looking at what happens in Norway and wonders whether in Scotland we're learning from other countries, and how do we adapt some of that to bring that across. I think that's a really good question, because As I said in my introduction, Scotland has one of the highest rates of incarceration in Europe, and yet the evidence doesn't suggest that that means we're a safer society. If anything, there's a question mark over whether our overuse of prison is leading to higher reconviction rates. I can say that I know that the Scottish Government, I know that Community Justice Scotland have looked, and particularly to our Scandinavian neighbours, in terms of how they manage the justice system, in terms of efficiency, effectiveness, and what works. So I think that learning does have to be shared across Europe. There are platforms to do so, and I hope that, you know, Donna, you and other students continue to look into this. We work with academics across Glasgow and across Scotland to understand what the evidence tells us, and often that evidence comes from other parts of the world. I don't know if anybody else wants to come in, if they've got any experience. John, I don't know whether you have any knowledge of similar community payback orders in other parts of the world?
Probably not, if I'm being honest, in terms of across Europe. We have, within the last couple of years, set up a kind of deliberate forum that involves colleagues of yourselves, Tom, and Community Justice Glasgow, and the other providers of unpaid work across the city, so that we can share that kind of experience and share good practice, so that we're then able to pick up maybe some more appropriate kind of work or tasks that we can then task individuals while they're on order. So that happens on a 6-weekly basis, albeit it's been challenging now, obviously, given the current situation. But it's something that we're definitely probably looking to do, even at a more national level, to have a wee look at how GPOs are delivered elsewhere in the country, and see where we can kind of learn from there.
Thanks, John. And I think that's a good point as well, that actually collaboration, while we do look further afield, often we have to talk to our colleagues right here in Glasgow, right here in Scotland, and share. And that's, you know, the process of supporting people into community payback orders and out the other side is multifaceted. So John's team does a really critical work, but they reach out and work with a range of colleagues. James, the next question is for you. Everybody wants to ask you a question. This is from Mike Stevenson. I'll just read it as it sits here. I want to ask you this. What was the moment that changed your expectations of life? Was it one conversation like mine, or was it a slow burn and the impact of many voices?
I'll be realistic here. This is very serious in my eyes, because life is serious. My daughter and my family, and being around the people that want me to aspire to do what I'm doing just now. You need to be around. If you really see and are viewing your life that negative, and you feel you're in a dark place and you just can't get out, well, look for something. Look for something that's going to give you a meaning of life. And my daughter is my inspiration. She fuels me to be productive and be blessed to be on this earth. So yeah, mainly my daughter, but family, my girlfriend, she's a major inspiration in my life as well. You need good people around you, and you need the people that want to see you achieving what your dream is. And this is what this is to me. This is a dream, and I'm going to chase it until I get. Well, I've got somewhere to know at this moment, but I want to get more.
Thank you, James. I know if this was a live event, we'd now be hearing the applause. So I don't know what virtual applause sounds like right now, but I'm sure that's what we're all hearing. Thanks, James, for that. Adam, next question is for you. It's from Jason Cook. What will these workshops look like in terms of working with Glasgow City Council to deliver unpaid work hours?
So they will look like sessions on Zoom or Microsoft Teams or the like, which most people are used to by now. I'm spending a lot of my time on Zoom. So they'll be like a kind of as close to a room environment as we can. So we'll have everybody logging in either from home or from somewhere like Bowden Street, where they can get access to an IT room, and they will log on much like they would turn up to work. And they'll log on from X time to Y time, and they will be in a class with myself and Mark, and we will have over that period invited guests. So we'll have podcasts that we're going to run as well, so that we'll have people with experience, lived experience in the criminal justice system, who have had their own road to change moment or their own road to change experience, because the purpose of the workshops are to engage in creative exercises. There will be a destination, whether it is a piece of spoken word or a play or a piece of film, theatre, whatever it ends up being, but the journey is more important than the destination. And as with all the work that Street Cones do, it's all about engaging in the creative process. And somebody said the other day, but isn't that soft? I mean, that's the same argument that people give about CPOs. Isn't a CPO soft justice? No, it's not. I mean, we've worked in the projects that we've done with prisoners in places like Shots, where you're dealing with people who are serving life sentences. These people are not soft. They're engaging in something that is asking of themselves. We've had people say, I'd rather pick up litter because it's easier, because that way you're working outside yourself. The nature of the creative process, you're often asked to work inside. And the rewards of that, the results of that are improved self-esteem, better communication skills, often better employability skills. And so that creative process that sadly in our society, we learn that it's been shut down. And certainly in my experience, when I decided I was going to be an actor when I was young, I was told, get a real job, you know. And what we've learned through this period, I think, lockdown, is that we've turned to artists. We have turned, the whole world has turned to creativity. I don't know if you saw the explosion in TikTok, for example, and memes and TikTok, means that our art, our creativity, and we need it. It's the lifeblood that fuels society. So if we are able, in these workshops, to answer the question, what do they look like? People are with us for 3 hours, twice a week or 3 times a week, and they'll be asked to engage in a creative way, to improvise, to come up with stories, to contribute, to discuss, to explore themes and narratives and character. And inevitably, real life experience comes to the fore. And although we do always have the protection of fiction in our workshops, so nobody's asked to expose lived experience that they're not comfortable with, but inevitably it comes up. And through kind of role play and various other creative drama-based, theatre-based exercises, we're able to explore reasons why people offend. We're able to explore poverty. We're able to explore the criminal justice system and life experience and grow from it. And that surely is the whole purpose of a criminal justice system, is for people to grow in such a way that they realise they can contribute to society in a more productive and more holistic way. That's what you want people to be at the end of a criminal justice journey, whether it's prison or a community payback order.
Thank you, Adam. And I think that helps to lead in. There's a second half to Jason's question, which is, will the participants' involvement with the workshops count towards their unpaid work hours? And the answer is, building on what Adam said, that they are being challenged, they are looking at the underlying effects. That is the nature of a community payback order, that it is the government's own words very clearly, it is a punishment, but alongside that, it is an opportunity to look at and ideally address issues that might be aligned with someone's offending. So the workshops can count towards what is known as the other activity. Within a community payback order, up to 10% of hours can be utilized for other activity to do the sort of work that Adam's described, to look at, to address, and for people to look inwards. So that's the answer there. I'm going to pick the next question. I'll pick up a question from Kevin. Is a CPO just about the government wanting to save money and reduce the prison population? I think we had the Cabinet Secretary say quite clearly, that community payback orders, not opposed to every other sentence, but as opposed to very short prison sentences, is an effective way to deliver justice. That if we want to reduce reoffending, if we want to have safer communities, then a community sentence is a logical way to go for a vast majority of people who are otherwise going to be in prison for very short periods of time. That also does have an economic value to it, but I think at the end of the day, the real value is what comes out the other side. If we're helping people to move past and to re-engage with their communities in a positive, constructive way, then that's got to be the shorter answer. Just picking up another question. Oh, here's a question, possibly for Adam, or maybe for James. We'll give Adam the first shot. It's from Sharon. How do our service users get a chance at having a go at acting or at writing?
Oh.
I'm sorry it doesn't, but I'm assuming maybe she works in social work or in an organization that does work with people who are in the justice system?
Who Street Cones are and what we do. So we are a charity organisation that's been running a few years. We were born in Barlinnie Prison. It was a former member of Street Cones, Hugh Young, that gave birth to Street Cones. And the work that Street Cones does is about working both ends of the justice system. So usually working with young people to stop them entering the criminal justice system and working with people in prison to stop them returning there. But we've worked with people in between. We've worked with people in recovery, learning challenged adults and young adults. And so how we don't have any core funding. So we work on a project by project basis, and we're trying to get core funding with applications going in now to have some core funding to allow people like myself and Mark to offer Sharon, for example, these kind of workshops, because most organisations that we speak to have all got funding challenges. But we would like to be delivering writing, creative-based workshops to as many different sectors and in many different groups as possible. But as is usually the case, it kind of comes down to time and labour and cost. And so we have the facility and we have the talent and skills to be able to deliver creative-based workshops that motivate change, that inspire change, and we'd like to be doing that as often and as much as we possibly can. So for anybody who's watching this, who's interested, and that is the other arm, obviously we've produced this film, we've produced a few films now using lived experience people. We produced one about home detention curfew actually for the Scottish Government a couple of years ago, and then we've made various films with young people and people in care or on the edge of care. We've made films charting their journey, their kind of road to change journeys as well. So we've got the creative-based workshop arm to us, and we've also got the film kind of production arm to us as well. So we're able to go in and make films. Or recently, for example, as Tom mentioned earlier, short radio clips. We've made an audio radio clip for the Scottish Prison Service as well. Again, we managed to use James for that. We're always trying to use lived experience people and incorporate lived experience people into the creative process. So that's what we do. Sharon, we'd love to be able to do those kind of workshops. So anybody watching, go on to the streetcones.org website, send us a message, get in touch with either myself or Mark McNichol, and we will try and work with you and see how we can meet that need wherever you are.
Thank you, Adam. James, do you want to say how you ended up on the other side of the camera?
Well, realistically, it was through Street Cones. More than anything, I'd done my CPO, I'd finished my hours, and I was striving to aspire on my acting career a wee bit more. And then I got connected. I was talking to one of the workers who took us out. I can't remember the lass's name, but she it was a great help in keeping me in a positive mind. So I ended up, I got put on to Adam Robertson and Mark McNichol, and Gary Sweeney also. He put my name forward, who he played in River City for so many years, Adam also. But yeah, it was this is how I get put onto the direction through my CPO. And Street Cones, to me, is give me a great chance in life. And they're willing, Adam and Mark are two amazing human beings in my eyes. They've changed my life completely. And the whole Street Cones organisation have given me this opportunity. And I used to speak to boys on the CPO, and some boys were willing to listen to. Some boys had it was a big wall in front of them because of past life experience. And now what Mark McNichol is has got the opportunity to start these other new workshops where he's given me maybe a opportunity to be part of this. And I just want to thank him and Street Cones for this opportunity as well. So yeah, I think it's anybody who's striving to change their life and who's in this system, who's listening just now, make a change a day, make your life better, and get in touch with Street Cones, without a doubt.
Thank you, James. And Sharon, I think you've got an invitation there to get in touch with Street Cones. John, a question
Can
to
I
you.
just
I don't have the
jump
name of
in
who
there?
sent this in, but I've only seen CPO do things like litter pick. This isn't great work experience. What other work can be introduced?
Yeah, well, there's obviously a part of it which will involve litter picking. So the whole process begins with community nomination. So community payback is there to pay back the local community. So there's a nomination process whereby local community groups, kind of action groups or local resident groups will highlight areas which are falling into disrepair and they'll ask for unpaid work deployment out into that area. We do the bit we need to do at our end in terms of risk assessing the site, making sure it's safe for individuals to go to, and then we'll go out and carry the work. So it does vary from the kind of simple task of de-littering to painting railings to building kind of some furniture within our workshop. So it is all hinged on sites that are community nominated. We don't pick them and decide that's where that looks a good place where we can tackle. It is all stems from community nominations. So there is a whole kind of wide variety. I'm trying to think of some of the most kind of common ones we do. It is environmental enhancement work, so opening up green spaces that have been overgrown so the communities can then utilise those green spaces, i.e. kids running about to play a game of football on it or just use it for a bit of exercise. It extends out to local friends of community parks and allotment groups where we'll go in and help to clear out unkempt kind of allotment plots to allow individuals who are looking to start utilising some growing spaces. It gives them that kind of blank canvas to start doing that kind of thing, and then extends to our unpaid workshops whereby we take felled trees within Glasgow parks and our magicians that are contained within our workshops, which are staff and of course the clients, then turn those wooden logs or tree trunks, which effectively we start off with, into wooden furniture, so picnic benches, bird tables, planters and the like, and they're then donated free of charge out to local community groups, schools and nurseries. So there's a wide range as a work there, and obviously as part of this then we would welcome anyone who's associated with local community groups or can find areas within Glasgow that you think may need a bit of PLC, then unpaid work, are definitely ready to consider those options.
So a fair bit more than litter picking. Thanks, John. John, do you want to say anything just on that same theme about some of the training that goes on and the volunteering opportunities for people when they finish on a CPO?
Yep. So as part of our kind of standard as such, as part and within our CPO that we're delivering, then the vast majority of it will be out in local communities, as I said earlier, delivering and paying back to those communities. But there's also a training side of it that we have at our facility in the south, which can deliver vocational training to unpaid work clients. So that's painting and decorating, and there's some soft and hard landscaping skills that take place there. We also run a volunteering programme which is called Recreate. Now the whole inception of Recreate came about from unpaid work clients themselves who really fell in love with the idea of no kind of structure in their life. A payback order added that bit of structure. They really enjoyed coming and engaging with other clients, engaging with local communities, and seeing that they were making a real difference in local communities. They then asked, or Recreate was kind of even thought of, could they come back to carry on when orders were finished? And the reality was the only real potential for doing that, unfortunately, was realistically had to go and commit another crime to get another order and come back with us, which is obviously the last thing we're looking to do. So there was then a thought process about how do we create potentially a volunteering programme that was supported through Criminal Justice Social Work, who ultimately funds Recreate now. And what we do is we take individuals who have completed their CPO and want to volunteer with us for a period of 6 months, and when they're volunteering with us, they get a support from the Recreate team in terms of looking to build employability skills, looking to kind of further enhance their volunteering with like the Glasgow Vintage Vehicle Trust. We've got links with our own internal departments within the council, and we've got a fair few great success stories where individuals have been in a CPO, completed their order, moved into volunteering with Recreate, and managed with the links that we have there to secure full-time employment. And we have guys who are still working now in full-time employment with the council. So a whole host of opportunities that we're obviously trying to build on as we move forward.
Thank you very much, John. Adam, we're getting caught up again on some of our use of language and not being clear. Kay is asking, what do we mean when we say lived experience? So Street Cones puts a lot of credit and value in that. Do you want to explain what that means? I think we might be having problems with Adam's line. Adam, can you hear me? Could we try again?
Is it unmuted?
I think we might have lost Adam. We'll come back to you in a minute, Adam.
Oh, here.
It gives you more time to think about that one.
You got me now? I'm back. There was a...
Okay, we're going to go for it?
Yeah. So, lived experience, sorry, we have... we do make the mistake sometimes of using terminology that's only known within the sector. But so lived experience refers to people with lived experience of the criminal justice system, of prison, of the children's panel, for example, of homelessness, of addiction. We've realised that there's real value in having people with lived experience in social work. For example, there's real value in having people with lived experience in the criminal justice system itself, because if you're tasked with administering any aspect of criminal justice, if you have some actual lived experience, it gives you not authority necessarily, but credibility. And so, for example, we could have made this film with just any actor. We could have got an actor to play Tam, but I think the film has an extra weight and an extra value and credence because we got James to do it, and that actor has lived experience of what he's talking about, so it adds weight to it. So that's what lived experience is.
Thanks very much, Adam. John, a couple of questions coming in a similar vein for yourself. In terms of delivering unpaid work hours right now during the COVID-19 related restrictions, how are you managing that?
We're at a kind of better place now, Tom, than we were obviously 4, 5, 6 weeks ago. So the service itself, in terms of across the country, but certainly where I manage in Glasgow, we shut down on the 18th of March, and that was us pretty much closed completely until the 10th of August. So we've started back in the south of Glasgow and in the east, and we will open back up in the northwest. So as of this Monday, we're back to all 3 facilities open in terms of light duties workshops, and we're trying to build as we go week by week, obviously following guidance. In terms of where we're at with normal service provision percentage wise, we're currently running about 25%, and we hope to move that up. But again, it's all kind of hinged on restrictions for the likes of getting clients into vehicles or looking for alternatives where we may be able to meet clients out into the community to then carry out unpaid work. So there's a whole host of work and planning going on in the background right now. So we'd be hopeful that in the next 4 to 5 weeks we'll be up close to 60-70% of our normal capacity.
Thank you, John. James, I have a question for you from David Brockett. It's actually 2 parts. First, he's saying, were you actually in real life as cynical as the character you play in the film? But also, would you give people advice if they were in that same position, being a bit reluctant to ask for help? What advice would you give them?
Yeah, well, I'll start with the first question. As I said before, this experience is so much a connection with my past life. So much, and it's so surreal. So if there's anybody out there who's in this situation, what I think would help them, first of all, I can't help you unless you want to help yourself, or nobody can help you unless you want to help yourself. So first of all, you need to help yourself. Second of all, find a positive every day. If you're in a negative situation, you need to up your way to get to that stage of it ending. There's nobody else that can change that apart from you. So you need to take and look at yourself deep within. And if you're at that stage where Tam was at the start of the film, and he's against the system, and he doesn't want to kind of change his life or anything like that, then we'll look and find it, because realistically, deep down, I don't think anybody would like to live their life like this, the way Tam was before, or the way I was in my past life. There's no way I would ever want to go back there. So if you're there and you're in that place, find people there as help. There's mental health groups, Men Matters, there's all different groups that's in Drumchapel. Just look for help. Find a way. Just keep speaking. The worst thing you can do is no talk. Speak. Let yourself be heard. And then you will find that place, that happy place where I am just now. So you can do it.
Thank you, James. Thanks very much. Adam, I'm going to turn the next question to yourself. We have a question from Stuart. Well, actually, Stuart observes that we've been talking about the work that Street Cones is doing with people who are on a CPO. So they've already offended, they've already gone through the court system. And he's asking, shouldn't we be doing stuff earlier to prevent people getting to that point? And I know Street Cones have done a lot of work with young people in care and at the edge of care. I don't know if you want to, you've touched on it a little bit in previous questions. You want to say a little bit about some of that work?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, again, we would love to. We don't want any barriers in the way to the work that Street Cones can do. And we've seen the value, the real actual value in the people and the young people that we've worked with and the prisoners that we've worked with. How many of the prisoners we have worked with, I ask, would not be there had they had access to this kind of work at an earlier stage? So I don't know. So we would love to do that kind of work, whether it's in schools or with just youth groups, not necessarily kids who are in care or on the edge of care. We'd like to do this work with as many people as possible. But I suppose there's a limit to how much Street Cones can do. But I think to answer that question, and I think somebody mentioned it before about the Scandinavian model. I remember we did an event, a National Youth Justice event at Pullmont a few years ago, and they had a visiting guest speaker from Norway. And this lovely Norwegian man who talked about youth offending in Norway. And at one stage, somebody asked him how many young people. Now, I think we've got about 700 or 800 young offenders locked up. In Norway, they have 7. And I remember putting my hand up and going, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 young people, young offenders. So they have very different approach. We all know that ultimately at the base of this, it's poverty. Is one of the reasons people reoffend. So by its very nature, this is reactive, but we need to work with what we've got in front of us as best we can, because, you know, you always need to be working. I think maybe what Humza Yousaf said, you know, we have a shared vision for a progressive society. We can't make it overnight. It does take time. And so the work we're doing is essential. It is reactive. I'd love it to be more proactive, but we have to, I think, address in society, we still have this attachment to the, and it's part of the capitalist system, isn't it? That we want to be productive. We want people in school to learn to be productive as quickly as possible. Whereas we hardly have an offending rate if people were taught how to be happy, if they were taught how to manage their mental health, if they were taught how to create meaning. And everybody, it's Picasso that said, everybody is an artist. That when everyone's born an artist, the trouble is remaining an artist once you grow up. So we all have creativity, whether you end up being an accountant or a hedge fund manager or an engineer. We all have creativity, and we are all aware that once we're engaged in creativity, we have a better quality of life, we have more meaning, we have access to managing our emotions and our physical health as well through creativity. So to answer that question, we would love to be proactive, but I think all of us need to be engaged in that conversation and think about how we can, because funding for the arts is being cut. How come arts are always the first thing to go? Even Winston Churchill, who I am not necessarily a massive fan of myself, said something amazing all those years ago during World War II when somebody was trying to get him to sell off works of art in the National Museum to pay for the war effort. And he said, but my boy, if we do that, what are we fighting for? even he realized the value of art and creativity. But why is it the first thing to be jettisoned in times of strife? And we need to refocus and recalibrate our whole approach to creativity. And Europe has that, you know, Germany has that. They have a much, even for a majorly productive society like Germany, their appreciation of arts is incredible. And we still don't have that yet in the United Kingdom. We still, art is like, you know, it can come after, it can struggle. So art's underfunded, theatres are closing down, film production is limited, poetry, all of those things that make life meaningful. We need to really, so all of us need to play a part in speaking to authority, speaking to schools, speaking to industry, how we start appreciating creativity and appreciating art if we want to have a great society to live in.
Thank you, Adam. That's a really powerful response, and actually it chimes with what a lot of people are asking on the chat. You know, people are asking about these wider issues beyond justice, about poverty, about social deprivation, about economic deprivation, and how do we address that? And I think your comments, your observations on art and the role it can and should be playing is really helpful. I'm going to stick, Adam, with you if I can, just because you seem to be on a roll anyway for answering. But there's a question from Mike Stevenson, and he's highlighting the issue about, do we have an overemphasis on academic achievement? And I know you've worked with a lot of young people, and you've touched on talking about, you know, everybody can be creative. And do you think we set people up to fail if we don't look beyond, you know, a narrow observation of success?
Yes, we do. We set people up to fail. I was one of those people that was set up to fail. I left school at 15. I was at the children's panel 3 times. I was heading, as one teacher famously said to me, I say famously because I've told this story to many, many people now. I do talks. I did a talk to the at Glasgow Uni to 3,000 graduates, and I told the story of my English teacher who had me up against the wall one day, and he said, "The only place you're going, Robertson, is prison," which I don't think that's a particularly good thing for any teacher to say to a young person, but it may have been true, and I think that's where I would have been heading. So I had potential, and like lots of the young people that we work with have potential to be whatever they want to be, but the references they have in their lives are leading them down a particular path. We are a product of our society, we're a product of our upbringing, and so, but our school system, which is is based on the capitalist model, it does set people up to fail. You're taught you must be productive, just be productive, build widgets, work a field, make something productive, like that's usually towards industry. Whereas, so we set people up for failure. People who have just different learning needs. You know, the university, the education system seems to be set up to, you know, well, way back, it was set up to get people in factories, you know, and now it's kind of set up to get people into university and then on to, you know, something productive. And there's no question we need those things in society, but I think we've got that. Like, that part of it's nailed in terms of the productivity side. So we just need to rebalance it now so that we don't set people up to fail. We accept, we understand that within a classroom, you're going to have some learners. Like me, I wasn't very, you know, a lot of the learning is auditory, you know, and it's rote, learning by rote, and I struggled in school. I really did. And so my response to struggling was to act out, to get into trouble, to end up at the children's panel. And so that, luckily, you know, I had a teacher who saw my potential, and she did really help me, and I came back to her in later life. But we are definitely, the system that is currently in place is definitely setting people up to fail. Many people succeed, and that is great. But often even the people that do succeed have mental health issues, aren't happy. They might be really productive and they might have a great bank account and a great house. But if we were trying to create a society where people were happy, were well adjusted, had good mental health, took care of their society, and they're compassionate toward their neighbours, you would have a society where creativity was at play. And I think if you look at ancient cultures, tribal cultures, they got that right. They were able to be productive, to manage life, but the dancing, the singing, the shared, the spoken word is what creates a healthy society. So that's a long way of answering that question. Yes, we're setting people up to fail, and we need to, you know, as a whole, take responsibility for that and try and recalibrate it, rebalance it.
Thank you, Adam. I think you have set us all a challenge, and appreciate that response. We've probably got time for a few more questions. I'm gonna take an easy one, and James, you can breathe in deep because I'm going to give you a hard one just after that. So the easy one is Rena has asked. She works in a local authority in justice services. Who do they speak with at Community Justice Glasgow? Get in touch with us. I mean, street cones are there. You can talk to them directly. But if you want to get in touch, my name is Tom Jackson. Give us a call or an email. You can find our website if you do the usual searches, and we'd be happy to talk to other local authorities about the work they're doing, about what we're doing. We do try and share across Scotland, and I think we're pretty good at that. And we've learned a lot from other areas as well. So James, now for your hard question. Anne is asking, what about victims in all of this? So she's saying, should victims have a say in the sentencing outcomes, and in particular, if someone's going to get a community sentence?
Of course. Anybody who's stuck in this system, whether it's prison or CPO, anybody in life should have a say or have that opportunity to get that say. Now, if I didn't have that opportunity, I don't think I would have got to where I'm up today. There needs to be compassion in life, and that comes from every angle, whether it's whether you are the victim who's maybe got so many demons inside, who's got a barrier up, but they can't find a way out. These people need help. These people need to find a way of understanding life and what somebody else understands them.
Thank you, James. I think it is. I know quite often there is that question out there, that challenge that we aren't thinking about victims. I think this is a rounded conversation, and it does look across society. And I think we also know that a lot of people going through our courts, through our prisons, through our community sentences have also been victims. So it's not as if people are on one side of the coin or another. But it was a really good question, Anne, and I think we do always need to make sure we're looking at this in that rounded way. John, well, actually, no, I'll open this up, and anybody from the three of you, put your hand up if you want to be the first to answer it, because the question is from Vicky. Vicky's asking, should there be some offences where custodial sentences are never an option? Well, your hand's not up, yes. Adam, but you're nodding, so you get in there.
Yeah, of course. I mean, drug offences, for a start. People who use drugs are not criminals. You know, that's again a wider conversation. But putting somebody who's using drugs into prison is more likely to turn them into a hardened criminal than it will rehabilitate them and make them a better member of society. But that's, you know, so I think this is a personal view. This is not the view of Street Cones or of any organisation. It's just my own personal view. But prison is reserved for severe, violent crimes and assaults, and you know, people who are a danger to society. And we've worked with prisoners who I know through long, prolonged contact with them, and working in, you know, in a very creative space where a lot is kind of revealed. These people aren't a danger to society, but they're people who made mistakes. So I don't think it's for me to say which exact crime should warrant a sentence and which shouldn't, but I could definitely stand behind drug users. You know, we can't be putting people in jail for committing drug offences. You know, most of these people need help, and prison is not the place for them to get that kind of help. So a community payback order may, because then often in community payback order, as John O'Neill was saying before, they have other activities and they can get rehabilitation support with drug. We talked about that. James focuses on that in James's story and Tam's story in the film. For me, there's no difference between Tam and James. Tam is James and James is Tam. But yeah, you know, that so the community payback order is an opportunity to have some structure. It's not the answer. I don't think any of us here, although engaged in this film, building and telling the story of saying this is the silver bullet. Of course it's not. It's just another element of the criminal justice response that can help. And I think somebody on a community payback order who has maybe drug issues will be surrounded by people and be exposed to and have opportunities to engage in a rehabilitative program or practice that could stop them or limit them from using drugs and limit them from offending. So I would definitely say that one.
Thank you.
Can I say one more question? Ask you one more question. See, when you were stating about victims, is this victims that's been on the other end the criminal?
I think that's what the question was meant to ask as well. Yes,
Right.
actually. So,
Right. So what can I just add to that then? Sorry. Is that
Yeah,
okay?
please.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, in my eyes, yes, I definitely think the victim should have a view, because they're the person that's the crime's been put upon, and then that gives them the opportunity to state how that affected them, how it affected their family, how it's affected them themselves. Did it put anybody in fear? These are all the aspects you need to look at in the sense of a victim. Now, over the years, there's a lot of stuff I've done in my life what I majorly regret, and it's like I'm cleansing my soul now. And yeah, there's people I've hurt in the past, what I regret, but I was so blind in life and just didn't understand life to the full extent what I do just now. So as a victim, of course they should definitely have their say, because they're the one the crime's been stowed upon, you know what I mean? So, and it's very serious in life crime, because it can be death, it can be serious injuries, scarred for life, mentally, physically, in every way. So victims must have a say, without a doubt.
Thank you, James. That's very clear. Thanks. Easier question. I'll go to James first and then to John, because there's a couple of questions coming in about relationships between the community, between your team, effectively, John, and those people who are on a CPO. And if I give it to James first, there's a specific question from Nicola, which is, did your relationships with the CPO staff help to motivate you, James?
Without a doubt. But first of all, what I'm going to say is, if you're stuck in the system, as I would say, like, you can be stuck in the system where it's social work, where it's been in prison, whether it's CPO, whether it's any kind of situation like that, because of their troubled backgrounds or whatever. And sorry, I've lost it. Can you ask me that question again, just so I can fixate on it?
Yeah, so Nicola, who I should say as well, Nicola is an unpaid work officer, and she's just interested in how your relationships with the likes of her and people in John's team, how does that affect and motivate you to get on in the role? Oops. It must have been too hard a question for James. We'll get him back. In the meantime, John, do you want to talk a little bit about relationships and what role your relationships with the clients plays in terms of taking things forward?
Yeah, I think for us it's pivotal. I don't think there's any doubt in that whatsoever. I think from going through the criminal justice system, in terms of maybe the first arrest to then going to court, meeting with your lawyer, meeting with your allocated social worker after sentencing, then our guys in terms of community payback officers are the guys who are working for a long period of time, hundreds of hours, 6-7 hours a day. So they automatically build up that relationship, and we need that to happen. And it is a difficult balancing act, because we do need to remember that there is potential a view out there that it's a softer option in custody. I think if you're comparing a community sentence to a custodial sentence, and it's always going to be viewed as softer just by its very nature. But ultimately, it doesn't take away the fact that as a sentence, it's the only difference being that it's being served into the community. So our guys, as I'm always going to say, do have a challenging job, but they do a really, really good job of it in terms of having that balancing act, to being engaging, encouraging people to change their kind of way of thinking and mindset when they probably arrive with us, and also having the balancing act of it is an unpaid work order, it is a sentence held down by the court. So there are rules, regulations, there are things that individuals need to comply with in a day, and there's obviously then consequences if they don't follow that through. So for us, it's a major part of an individual's success in terms of completing their order, is we do need to build that relationship, rapport, and engagement with them. Being honest, again, unfortunately, we will have individuals who will come through the system where there's that constant barrier up. So for us, it's just trying to find ways of chipping away at that to help them through orders.
Thank you, John. And I'm sure James didn't shy away just because of the question, but thanks. And I think we got the gist of what James was saying anyway in regard to the question. Listen, we're getting. Oh, James is back. James is back. We lost you for a minute. Do you want to say anything to Nicola?
Yeah, right. So what I'm saying is, did they help me? Of course they helped me in every way they helped me, because first of all, you need to be willing to be wanting to come out the system and get help to progress, to get to the end of that and never get involved in the system maybe again. So definitely the staff help 1,010%, because as I say, if you've got that big barrier up, then it's not going to help, because you're not helping yourself. So if you want that help, be on a level with the staff, and then you will come to an understanding.
Thank you, James. Now, I don't want my colleagues around the virtual table to say I've been unfair and handing out all the questions and not taking any myself. So I'm going to take the last couple because they're easy. The first is a lot of people asking, how can I get involved? Just remind you, streetcones.org. Go ahead, check in, communicate, drop them a message. I'm sure that Adam or Mark will get back in touch with you quite quickly. Equally, get in touch with us at Community Justice Glasgow. We'd be happy to talk to anybody, whether you're working in Glasgow, there's some students online, get in touch. We'd love to be in communication with you. I've also been told that the film is now on the website. So if you go to streetcones.org and go to the Roadworks page, you can access the film. And you can access the film independently, or today's event will also be available for people to use with the introduction and the Cabinet Secretary's introduction to it. I'm going to bring us to an end, but again, it doesn't need to be the end. We hope that people will keep sending us questions. Send them in via the websites. We'd love to keep in dialogue. As I said, today was the start of something. I guess I've got two short tasks to do before we turn off and let you get on with sharing the film. And the first is what we always have to do. There's a lot of thanks to give out there. And again, I'm curious as what a virtual applause will sound like. So in the first instance, in particular, Mark, our writer, Adam, our director, and James, the star of our show, a virtual round of applause, because they've done a sterling job. And it is a great piece of work. I think when we embarked on this, I didn't envision it could be just as on the mark as it has been. So well done to them. And of course, behind the scenes, we have people operating the cameras. We have people doing sound. Today, we've had the support of Production Attic, making sure that we're here. Behind the scenes, there's about 10 or 12 of us, I think, at about 9 different sites. And somehow Matt has managed to keep us all pretty much going live. And that's a credit. I don't know how they do it. I barely can send an email. There's a lot of thanks to give. Glasgow City Council and the Health and Social Care Partnership, particularly social work, and John's team down at Bowden Street, who are involved in delivering. They've not only been involved since the initial writing and giving Adam and Mark access to talk to guys to find out what their stories would be and helping them to generate the story. They've opened the doors and made sure that we could film, and all credit to them appearing on film. And John, I'm sorry I crossed your ideas that an acting career is in the making. I withdraw that. I think there is still time. There are members of the community, and there were individuals who were on their CPOs who participated in the film, and my thanks to them for being so open and willing to speak, to share their perspective on it. Thanks to the Cabinet Secretary, who, again, gave up his time to be interviewed by Adam and Mark, and gave us that very warm welcome at the start of the show. My thanks to Vox Luminous. If you don't know their work, please check it out. It was nice to have a little bit of music at the beginning, and as we fade out, we'll play a bit of the music to see the event out. So now my second task is really to challenge all of you, but I don't think I have to. If I'm looking at the questions that have been coming in, you're already up for the challenge of continuing this dialogue. That we want to challenge that balance of the justice response to crime. We want to see the opportunities of community sentences come into their own, And we hope that you'll be part of that. And I guess that also means we had, I think there were over 500 people registered for today's event. We'll know at the end how many logged in via the various platforms. But I suspect a lot of people came because they already have an interest and a willingness. So I'm going to challenge you to go out there and reach out to new audiences, to fresh audiences. We want to make sure that we are challenging the cynicism, to let them know that actually there are opportunities in our justice system and that community sentences have an important place in that justice system, and we are underutilizing it at the moment. So I'm really pleased. Thank you everybody for tuning in today. Thank you for your patience at sitting through the questions and answers and listening to those and submitting so many questions. And my apologies that we haven't gotten through half of the questions that have come in, but keep them coming in. We'll continue the dialogue. Get in touch and please have a very pleasant evening. Good night.
And don't sleep in my own bed anymore. I uniform to show you who I am. Boring, but it's so easy. Same faces all of the time. And my girl on the brain, I'm in dire need of change, but I'll miss it all the same. Give me the news and an honest page, a seasoned book and a set of wheels, a flash of your eye from across the party, a quiet life, an open strange place, familiar faces, old furniture brings it all back. The new makes me curious, and I might miss the routine, but I'd replace it with that scene in front of me any day. I'm amazed at the ways it's gonna change. Give me the news and an honest page, a seasoned book and a set of wheels, a flash of your eye from across the party, a quiet life, an open door. It's amazing how, surrounded by so many people, you can still be lonely. I'm only after opening my own door. Give me the news and an honest paycheck, a seasoned book and a set of wheels, a flash of your eye from across the party, a quiet life. Give me the news and an honest paycheck, a seasoned book and a set of wheels, and a flash of your eye from across the party, a quiet life, an open door, an open door, an open door. pure and right, sliding like an ice cube on a silver tray, growing ever smaller in the sunlight of the day, fluid with no substance, formless and unbroken, as my feelings slip away, as my slip away, pure